Hi everybody, this is Debbie from the Shop at Threads. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be actually going over a stitch out that may have some minor errors in the stitch out, such as your bobbin thread may have come up on surface and you need to, and it might be white and you need to color that in to blend. And we're going to be going over some tips basically to let you know easier way of doing some things during your embroidery um, process of whatever you're making. So let's get started. Okay, I have a towel that I made, and I want to say I made this a little over a year ago, year and a half, which I've only been doing like embroidery going on 3 years, so this might even be closer to 2 years old. This was my own design that I designed. I designed it and digitized it on Essentials. And yeah, I see now looking back, I've got a couple of little errors that um, I made. One of them is I can see this is puckered a little bit. So I know I used to stretch my fabric like this when I put it in a hoop. And again, I feel that's probably one of the reasons, if not the reason why I have this little pucker. The other thing I see here is this is a digitizing error. And the reason why I know that, because after I got done digitizing this little snowman, I saw the way the threads were running that something was off on the screen while I was digitizing it. But at the time, I really didn't understand what it meant. So after the stitch out, it all kind of dawned on me that the angle of the stitches had some play in this. So again, if I didn't have the puckering and I only had this little line here, um, and it wasn't running all the way across like it is on the hat, and let's just say it was this much right here, I would definitely go in with fabric markers. Those to me are a must, okay? These fabric markers I got through Amazon. You get 30 colors. They are the lifesaver because anything can happen with, your stitch out, machine error or human error. So you always want to have permanent fabric markers on hand in the event something does and you're not wasting your whole, like to waste this whole towel on, something so minor. Um, it's fixable. So you want to pick up the fabric markers for sure. Again, 30 different colors, and they have different shades of each color. Okay. Being this was the black on my snowman's hat, I'm going to be working with the black. So I'm going to actually show you um, how you can go in and do the fabric marker to make that blend in, and you'll never notice the difference, and it doesn't wash out. So it can be washed and washed and washed, and it will never change. Okay, so let's get started. All right. I hope you can see from there. I'll kind of bring it up as close as I can while I'm doing it. Okay, so like I said, it goes from here all the way to the other side. So I'm going to take my tip, if you can find like a better side of the marker, the felt coming out of the marker, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to just very lightly touch it. Okay, very lightly. Do not press down real hard because you're not looking to put color everywhere. You're just looking to cover up that white. I mean, thread is made with um, colors, permanent colors. So, yeah, if you got the right color with the marker, and you can clearly see it's disappearing, and you're not seeing anything that's fixed. Okay, now it runs all the way to over here. I'm gonna go over here and lighten or darken that up. There you go. There you go. Now, I've had to go in on a couple things sometimes where, it dries a little bit and it still may be a little bit lighter um, because the color might have sunk down into, the other threads. And you just go back over it just very lightly again. Typically, you don't have to, but you may have to. Okay? And same thing here. But be very careful while you're doing this because I have also gotten a little silly and carried away, and then you get it into another part of your design. So you don't want to do that. If it's right on the cusp here, be extremely careful. Okay, because you don't want to wreck your whole thing if it's something that can be fixed. So there you have it. I mean, I can vaguely see it. You'd have to really get on top of it. I'm going to darken it up just even a little bit more. There we go. That's it. That was it. I'm hoping you can see. So that took care of that. Now we have an item that is, let me see, coming down this way because I was holding it up. I didn't get another angle. So I'm just going to kind of go in very light there. That's it. Perfect. You would never, ever, ever know on that side that there was light color coming through. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. That was one thing. And you do want to let it dry. It's like anything else. If you work with it too soon, it may not be dry, and you might be getting something on your other part of your towel. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and take the end of my towel just to see if time-wise, yeah, see, it's not dry. See on my finger? So you want to wait a little bit. But I don't care about this towel because this is a towel I'll use to clean. It's been in a closet in the back, way part of the back of the closet. So I don't care if it gets anything on it. But I just want you to be sure that you wait till it dries. Now, I also never did cut off the little tails from digitizing. So you see them all kind of hanging out there on their own. I don't know if you can or can't, but there's several of them. And which is, again, I look back at some of the digitizing that I could have avoided, having tie-offs here. But anyway, it's okay. It's not a bad pattern. So what I do, and I've showed it in other videos, is I go in when I'm trying to remove my tails. I go in and I just lightly do this with, now, you can use your Fiskars Scissors, which is what most people will be using because they don't have a clippers. So I want to make sure that you know you can go in with your scissors and clip these off too. It's just that I happen to have an extra bullet, being I've been in the hair industry. This is an old one, so I decided to use that for this and bought a new one for my, doing haircuts and so forth. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to cut the tails off with this. Okay, and you can see them coming off. You don't want to go in like this because you'll end up, it'd take a lot of pressure to get in there and really snip those stitches, but you still want to be careful. Okay, I just lightly touch it, and I go in different directions because some of the little tails, the threads, are facing another direction, so you won't get them if you do it just one way, go in just one direction. So you want to go in all directions to make sure you get them. Okay. And it should be it. That is it. Now I want to show you what I also bought, and I love this more than anything. This little vacuum I bought from Amazon, and it has enough power to pull off threads. But it isn't going to suck your material up on the item that you're working on. So let me turn it on. Not real noisy, but I'm going to see if you can see. There's some thread here. There, got it. Got it. Let's see if we can get closer. Got that one. There's another one. Instead of, it just gets, instead of, got it all over the table. Okay, you're going to clean your mess up with this too. Is a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. And I want to say it was like $19 on Amazon. I don't know the name of it because I've gotten rid of the box. But if you look up small handheld vacuum, you should be able to pull this up on Amazon. But anyway, I found it also very, very good for hats because when you're cutting tails off inside of like a structured hat, I just go in and I just do on the inside, and boy, it's gone. I don't have a mess on my table. Love, love, love it. Okay, so the next thing I want to touch base on, and I don't have any on here to show you, but I want to show you by just kind of doing a demo, is if you had water soluble on here that you had to take off, okay? And I learned this trick from somebody else on a tutorial, and I thought it was pretty clever. They used a seam ripper, and on the end of the seam ripper, there was a cap that was made of rubber. And it was kind of like a spirally cap. And to get the, like, water soluble off, they took that and they would go like this. And because the rubber would just catch it right, it would start tearing off the water soluble. And it was just amazing to me because I was like, okay, how many times have I gone in with the little tweezers? You know, let me see if I can find a pair. And I think we've all done it. And you're trying to pick it out, and pick it out, and pick it out. Okay. Some areas you cannot get in there. I don't care if you try to use the tweezers without maybe pulling threads, especially on a towel. Those areas you have to use water. But some other areas that are larger, maybe medium-sized areas where you have the water soluble, that little tip that I was telling you about from a seam ripper works wonderful. I just happen to have, and I know you can buy these on Amazon too, I have rubber tips for needles. You know, like it's a thimble, but it's made of rubber. And I tried this, and this works like a charm. All I do is put this on, and I do this and that. Water soluble is coming up. It's fantastic. That's one trick. The other one is, and I'm going to show you, but it's really nasty looking right now. You have to wet it to get it off because it's dried. But you take water soluble and you go around a tennis ball, okay, a couple times, like just your scraps. You don't want to waste a good piece of water soluble. Take scraps, save your scraps. And then you wet it, and then it'll dry. When you need to go in, you spray your item, you spray whatever area you need to go in, let it set for a second. You take a clean, not this one's got fuzz, a clean dried on your tennis ball, and do this, and it pulls it right up too. So that's another trick to get the water soluble up. Okay, so either your thimble or the tip of, mine doesn't have it, but your seam ripper, they come with some tips that have a rubber end. Okay, but mine, like I said, mine does not have it. So the other thing I wanted to touch base on is, okay, how many times have you had the thread come up? I'm going to pull one up if I can just to show you, because I don't have anything right now that is going to need gluing down to show you, you know, but I can make that happen. Okay. Let's just say, for an instance, that's a good example. I just pulled up the thread from his hat a little bit. Okay, so we got this little thread that I just pulled up, and I don't know if you can see that. And if you can't, it's there. I bought Aleene's Fabric Fusion. This is permanent adhesive. Okay, so we're not looking at something that's going to wash off in the wash. This is permanent. So I take, depends on what's around me, but I've got a napkin here. I put a little dab. You only need a little dab to start with. A little dab on the napkin. Make sure you put your cap back on. You don't want things drying out. And I take a toothpick. You can take whatever sharp and good tool that you might have. But I use a toothpick. And I go in and I take that little thread that I just pulled up, but if it's up from a stitch out or something, I go in and I go across it and I pat it down. And the reason why I use my toothpick is I kind of try to blend it in with the rest of the stitches. Okay? And it is. It's blending in very nicely. You'll never be able to tell. So that's for that. And not only that, but let's just say, for instance, you are cutting away something on, whether it be a towel, like, let's just say, cut away stabilizer. And you, oops, I cut into the material. Oops, what am I going to do now? No, it's no good. Wrong. Let me tell you something. Everybody does it. It happens. And why waste that item when you can fix it permanently? You know, if it was a temporary fix, I'd say absolutely not, especially if you're going to sell it. You don't temporary fix anything. You make sure that that item is permanently fixed before you actually sell it. So, okay, that's not big enough, but let me do a little, you can't see it where I cut it, so let me do that. Right here. All right. Okay, I accidentally cut it. Okay? What I'm going to do is go in with my Aleene's, and I'm just going to directly apply it to that area, or you can dab it with, you know, your solution you got on a napkin and use a toothpick too. I'm going to put right on that area very lightly. Wait a second. Again, make sure you get your cap back on. You don't want anything drying up in the bottle. I'm going to let it dry up, kind of pat it down, and close it together if you can. If you have to take a tweezers and you say, okay, let's close that up just a little tiny bit. It's closed up. Can't see no hole. It takes a little bit to dry, and when it dries clear. And it's not like stiff. Okay, so those are just ways that when there's minor things that happen, it's up to you whether you feel comfortable still selling it or not. As you move along in the embroidery business, your mistakes get less and less. In the beginning, you're going to be making more mistakes. Not to say that even when you're experienced, you don't make mistakes. Trust me, I make mistakes more often than not. So yeah, it happens. I'm more aware and cautious than I was in the beginning because I wasn't aware of what all could happen with anything I was doing. But anyway, let that dry. When you finish, you know, putting that fabric glue on, let that dry, I would say, for at least 6 hours. And if you can overnight, that's even better yet. You will never, ever know nothing happened. And again, it can be washed over and over and over. I've taken, you know, some of the things that I've just to experiment to know that it is permanent and there is not a thing that shows. So I can see it now because I just touched it, but let it dry and you will be all good. Okay, so that's little tips and tricks of what I do when I run across something that I know is so minor, but yet it can be fixed. And I want to show you now that the hat is pretty much dry. It takes a little longer than that. But you don't have an item you're wasting. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that. Things are too expensive. And even if you save them as gifts, you know what I mean, for somebody in your family, I mean, if you know that you wouldn't feel good about selling it, even having a minor conclusion on there, occlusion, not conclusion, then don't do it. But me, I know that when it's fixed with what I just did, it is permanent and it is fine. All right, well, I think that kind of wraps up, you know, little tips and tricks with little things you might come across making mistakes on, or the machine made the mistake, whatever it might be. And another thing, too, while I got you here, somebody recently was just saying that they had stuck their finger in the machine while they were stitching, and they showed what the emergency room took out. Guys, please, that is something that feared me in the beginning. Do not put your fingers ever near that machine. You know, in the event, and I don't know how fast the smaller machines go, but I know the machine I have, which is the PR670E, it can go up to 1,000 stitches per minute. So, yeah, that's brutal if it gets your finger. And anyway, somebody else on another tutorial a while back mentioned to get these chopsticks. Because we have a tendency when you see something, oh, you know, there's a little piece of fuzz over by where the needle's going to go, whatever the case may be. You have a tendency to want to put your finger in there, right? Keep a chopstick by your machine at all times. And if you need to try to get something out of the way because you're afraid it's going to, you know, stitch it to your item and it won't look good, use a chopstick. Rather than needle, get your chopstick than your finger. So that's another tip. Don't put your fingers, use the stick, keep it right there. And say it to yourself every time you embroider, keep fingers out and away. Okay? Because, man, I that's one thing, it fears me. It really does to get my fingers, you know, embroidered. I've cut off the tip of my finger being a hair designer when I was learning in beauty school. I was doing a man's haircut, and I don't know how I did. It was this finger because I'm right-handed. Anyway, I was cutting, and just right at the tip. So, yeah, that was not a good scenario. I had to go to the ER. So, anyway, you don't want to do that with embroidery. Okay, putting your fingers in the way. All right, I think that covers any kind of little tips and tricks for now. Down the road, I might have some more or think some more, and I definitely will share them with you. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this video, and I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving because it's coming up this Thursday, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks again. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.